Welcome! For years, we've all been told pretty much the same story about facial aging. It's all about gravity. Everything just gets pulled down. But what if I told you that's barely scratching the surface? Today, we are going deep, literally, to uncover the modern, three-dimensional truth about why our faces change. Think of it like an architectural journey, layer by layer.
So this slide, it really sets the stage. On the left, you've got the old story we all heard, gravity. Simple. But look to the right. The real story, the one that science actually understands now, is so much more interesting. We're talking about volume loss in your fat pads, ligaments getting weaker, muscles going out of balance, and, get this, even your bones changing shape. It's a total structural shift, and we're about to break down every single piece.
So where do we even begin? Well, the most obvious place, the top layer. Let's call it the exterior facade of our face. This is our skin and the layer of fat that sits right underneath it. It's where we usually see those first little signs of aging.
Okay, so when we talk about skin aging, we're not just looking at what's on the surface. The real action is happening inside, in the skin's main layers. It's kind of like, imagine the paint on a house cracking, not because of the rain, but because the wall underneath it is starting to break down. That's exactly what's going on here.
And this is where we connect the dots, right? We see what's happening on the inside and how it shows up on the outside. See that drop in collagen? Well, that's what directly leads to fine lines and wrinkles. And when your elastin starts to break down, your skin loses that snappy, bouncy feel. Every single thing we see in the mirror has a very specific cause happening just underneath.
Let's peel back one more layer, to the superficial fat. Now, this isn't just one big cushion. No way. It's actually a whole series of separate little compartments that give our cheeks their roundness and our face that soft, youthful shape.
So what happens when these little fat compartments start to change? Well, think of them like tiny balloons that are slowly losing air. As they deflate and gravity starts to have its way, we see the results. That deflation is exactly why those laugh lines, the nasolabial folds, get deeper, and why the corners of the mouth can start to turn down into marionette lines.
And this is such a crucial point. Facial aging isn't this one-size-fits-all thing. It's incredibly specific. It's compartmental. A fat pad in your cheek might shrink, while another one down by your jaw might just shift downwards. It's this incredibly complex pattern of changes that creates the unique signs of aging for every single person.
All right, so we've looked at the facade. Now we're going deeper, to the stuff you can't see, the hidden scaffolding. These are the critical support structures that hold everything up and give our face its shape and integrity.
First up, we've got something called the SMAS. Yeah, I know, it's a mouthful. Superficial musculoaponeurotic system. But it sounds way more complicated than it is. Just think of it like a strong fibrous net that sits between your fat and your muscles. It's the whole reason that when you smile, your skin moves with your muscles. It's a pretty vital communication layer.
And what holds that entire net in place? The retaining ligaments. Now, these are the real heavy lifters. They're like the structural pillars of your face, anchoring all of that soft tissue right onto the bone. You can really think of them as your face's front line of defense against gravity.
So what happens when this scaffolding starts to weaken? Well, as that SMAS net loses its elasticity and those ligament pillars start to stretch out, the whole support system begins to fail. And the result of that? The tissue in the middle of your face starts to descend. And that downward slide is exactly what creates jowls along the jawline.
And now we've made it to the deepest layers, the actual foundation of the face. And let me tell you, this is where the most profound, most impactful changes are happening, affecting absolutely everything sitting on top of them.
First, the deep fat compartments. Now, don't confuse these with the soft, superficial fat we talked about earlier. This deep fat is all about structure. These are dense pads sitting right on the bone, and they act like a scaffold that literally holds up all the other tissues.
So when these foundational fat pads start to go away, the loss of support is pretty dramatic. This is what causes the tear trough, that hollowing you can see under the eyes. It's why cheeks can start to look flattened or hollowed out. The very structure that was propping them up has actually shrunk.
So we've covered skin, fat, ligaments. But let me ask you, what's the one part of your face you assume is totally static? The one part that never, ever changes? I'm guessing most of us would probably say our skull, right? Our bones.
Well, this might be the most surprising fact in this entire explainer. Your facial skeleton is not static, not at all. It is a living, dynamic structure that is constantly remodeling itself throughout your entire life. The very framework of your face is actively changing shape as we speak.
And this process of bone loss or resorption has massive consequences. For example, as the bone around your eye socket literally gets wider over time, your eyes can start to look more sunken. As your jawbone loses some of its volume, your jawline can lose its sharp definition. The solid frame that your entire face is built on is slowly but surely changing shape.
Okay, so now that we get how the whole facial architecture kind of deconstructs itself over time, the big question is, how do we approach fixing it? This brings us to the really smart, modern, layered approach to facial restoration.
Here's the guiding principle today. You don't just patch the cracks in the wall anymore. You have to fix the crumbling foundation first. The goal isn't just to fill in a line or a wrinkle. It's to go after the root cause of why that line showed up in the first place by rebuilding the structural support from the ground up.
And this slide, this is where it all comes together beautifully. The most effective modern strategies, they just mirror the journey we just took, but in reverse. You don't start with the skin. You rebuild the foundation first, supporting the bone and the deep fat. Then you move up. You reinforce the scaffolding. You refine the contours, and only then, at the very end, do you deal with the facade, the skin itself.
And I think this quote just perfectly captures the modern philosophy. The goal has totally shifted. It's not about trying to erase every sign of life from a face. It's about restoring that architectural harmony and balance so that a person's expressions stay natural and, stay uniquely theirs.
So, we'll leave you with this thought. Now that you understand facial aging not as just skin falling down, but as this complex, three-dimensional architectural shift that's happening across all these different layers, how does that change the way you see your own face and the faces of everyone around you?